I've worked nights most of my life. Not by choice, really. It's just how things shook out. After my mom got sick, I dropped out of community college, picked up whatever shifts I could, gas stations, 24-hour pharmacies, you name it. But when I saw the ad for the overnight waitress gig at Lou's all-night diner, I thought I'd finally caught a break. The pay was better. The hours? Midnight to 7 a.m. Quiet, simple, just coffee refills and pie slices for truckers and insomniacs. At least, that's what I told myself. The diner sat off Route 9, halfway between nowhere and forgotten. Just a box of yellow light in a sea of cornfields. Lou, the owner, was a leathery old guy who smelled like bacon grease and Camel Reds. He hired me on the spot. No interview, no paperwork. Just tossed me an apron and said, "Rules are on the back of the menu, memorize." I didn't think much of it at the time. Figured it was just Lou being Lou. One of those guys who thinks his greasy spoon's a 5-star joint. But that first night, when I flipped over the menu, the rules, they weren't about smile at the customers, or don't burn the toast. Rule 1. Always keep the coffee fresh. If the pot empties, refill it immediately. Do not wait. Rule 2. Never seat a customer in booth 7. If someone asks for it, say it's broken. Rule 3. If a customer orders the special pancake, ring the bell twice. Do not ask what's in it. Rule 4. At 2:07 a.m., lock the front door for 7 minutes. No exceptions. Rule 5. If the jukebox starts playing on its own, unplug it. Do not listen to the song. Rule 6. Never look at the highway after 3 a.m., no matter what you hear. Rule 7. When your shift ends, leave through the back. Do not glance at the parking lot. I laughed. Honest to God, I thought it was a joke, some hazing ritual for the new girl. But Lou's face, he wasn't smirking. He stared at me like he was handing over a will. "Break a rule," he said, "and you'll regret it." Then he left me alone with the night. The first few hours were dead quiet. Just me, the ticking clock, and the occasional semi-roaring past. I wiped counters, refilled sugar shakers, tried not to think about Rule 6. Around 1:30 a.m., the bell above the door jingled. He looked normal enough. Late 40s, trucker cap, flannel shirt. Sat himself at the counter and ordered coffee. Black. I poured it, made small talk. Asked where he was headed. He didn't answer. Just stared at his reflection in the mug. That's when I noticed his hands. They were wrong. Too smooth. Like wax. No fingerprints. No veins. I told myself it was the lighting, or my nerves. But when I set down the pot, he grabbed my wrist. Cold. So cold it burned. "You new here, darlin'?" I yanked free, spilling coffee everywhere. He didn't react. Just kept staring, smiling with teeth that looked filed to points. Better learn the rules fast. Last girl didn't. I stood there shaking, coffee soaking into my shoes. That's when the clock hit 2:07. Rule 4. Lock the door for 7 minutes. I stumbled to the entrance, fumbled with the deadbolt. My hands wouldn't stop trembling. Outside, the parking lot lights flickered. Something moved in the cornfield. Tall, too tall, stalking on legs that bent the wrong way. I slammed the door shut, leaned against it, heart pounding. The thing outside, it scratched the glass. Long, jagged nails dragging down the pane. I didn't look, couldn't, just counted the seconds in my head. 1, 2, 3. The scratching stopped. The clock ticked to 2:14. I unlocked the door. The parking lot was empty. When Lou came back at dawn, I demanded answers. He just lit a cigarette and said, "Told you to follow the rules." I quit, or tried to. But the next night there I was, apron on, coffee brewing. Why? Because when I got home that morning, I found something in my pocket. A napkin, smudged with grease and a phone number. Asked for the special pancake. I shouldn't have gone back, but curiosity's a poison, ain't it? And I was thirsty. I told myself I went back for the money. Lou paid cash, no questions asked, and rent was due. But deep down, that napkin kept me up all day. The number scrawled in shaky ink. The whisper in my ear when I dialed it. Asked for the special pancake. I hung up fast, but the words stuck like tar. Night 2. Lou didn't mention the spilled coffee or the claw marks on the door. Just grunted. Booze 7's off limits, don't forget. Like I could. The rules were taped to the coffee machine now, stained with grease and paranoia. The first hour crawled. I memorized the cracks in the linoleum, the way the jukebox's lights flickered like a warning. Then, at 12:47 a.m., the bell chimed again. A woman shuffled in, late 60s, maybe, hair like storm clouds, eyes fogged over. She hovered by the entrance, clutching a moth-eaten coat. "Booth 7. She croaked. "Rule 2. Never seat a customer in booth 7. I forced a smile. "Sorry ma'am, that one's broken." She didn't blink, just repeated louder, "Booth 7. Her voice cracked like old porcelain. I glanced at the rules. What happened if I broke one? Lou never said, but the trucker's words echoed. Last girl didn't. How about the counter? I gestured, desperate. Coffee's fresh. She didn't move, just stared at booth 7, at the torn red vinyl, the sticky syrup stain no rag could lift. Then she lunged. I've never seen someone that age move so fast. She slid into booth 7, her grin splitting wide. Too wide. "Thank you, dear," she hissed. The air turned thick, sour, like rotting milk. Rule 5. If the jukebox starts playing on its own, unplug it. Do not listen. I froze. The woman hummed along, off-key, her fingers tapping the table. Tap, tap, tap. Each beat synced with the twisted melody. I grabbed a steak knife from the counter, edged toward the jukebox. The cord was tangled, knotted like veins. The woman's humming rose to a screech. Stay, stay, stay. I yanked the plug. Silence crashed down. The woman was gone. Booth 7 sat empty, but the syrup stain, it had spread, darker, thicker, like blood. I didn't clean it up. By 2 my hands wouldn't stop shaking. I'd refilled the coffee 6 times, just to keep rule 1. The pot never emptied, not once. But the trucker's warning gnawed at me. Last girl didn't. What happened to her? Was she the voice on the phone? The stain in booth 7? The bell chimed again. A kid stood there, 10 years old maybe, baseball cap, scraped knees. He looked normal, terrifyingly normal. Can I get the special pancake? Rule 3. If a customer orders the special pancake, ring the bell twice. Do not ask what's in it. My finger hovered over the service bell, but the kid smiled, and his teeth. My mom says you're supposed to ring the bell. I slammed the bell. Ding ding. The kitchen doors swung open. Lou stood there, apron splattered with something black and glistening. He didn't look at me, just stared at the kid. Lou slid the plate onto the counter. The pancake oozed. Red, syrupy, too red. The kid dug in, grinning up at me. Want a bite? I backed away, bumped into the jukebox. The kid's laughter sharpened, shrill. She looked at the highway. Rule 6. Never look at the highway after 3 My eyes darted. 2:58 glowed on the clock, but the kid pointed, insistent. Look. I shouldn't have, but fear makes you stupid. I looked. Headlights, dozens of them, parked along the highway. No engines, no drivers, just lights and shadows, moving shadows, slithering toward the diner. Lou grabbed my arm, nails digging in. Rule 4, now! I don't remember locking the door. Don't remember crouching behind the counter. Just the thuds. Fists. Bodies. Things pounding on the glass. The kid laughed the whole time. At 3:14 a.m., it stopped. The parking lot was empty. The kid was gone. All that remained was his plate, clean, polished, and a napkin folded into a perfect square. I quit, again. Got halfway home before I realized I'd left through the front door. Rule 7. When your shift ends, leave through the back. Do not glance at the parking lot. But it was too late. In the rearview mirror, I saw them, the headlights, following. I drove. Didn't stop till sunrise. But when I pulled into my driveway, the napkin was there, on the passenger seat, unfolded. I didn't sleep. Couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw those headlights. Felt the kid's metal teeth glinting in the dark. But when the sun dipped below the cornfields, I drove back to Lou's. Not because I wanted to, because the diner called. Lou was waiting, leaned against the neon sign like a vulture. He didn't ask why I came back, just tossed me a fresh apron. Booth 7 stain needs scrubbing, he said, like it was my fault. The stain hadn't dried. It pulsed, warm, alive. I pressed the mop to it, and it hissed, whispered V, from the floor. Jessica. My name. It knew my name. I stumbled back, knocking over the bucket. The water swirled red, spiraling down the drain, and then I heard it, a wet gurgling laugh, from the jukebox. Quit dawdlin'! Rule 1. Coffee's low! I refilled the pot, hands shaking. The rules glared at me from the coffee machine. Rule 7 circled in grease. Leave through the back. But I'd already broken that. What else could the diner take from me? A couple walked in, young, dressed for a prom that never ended. Her sequined gown was moth-eaten. His tuxedo was caked in mud. They slid into booth 7 without asking. 2 special pancakes, extra syrup. Rule 3. Ring the bell twice. I didn't move. The girl tilted her head, neck cracking like dry branches. Ring the bell. Lou burst through the kitchen doors, face purple. Do it! He slammed the bell himself. Ding ding. The couple held hands, grinning. Their teeth weren't metal. They were gone, just black gaps. Lou slid 2 plates onto the table. The pancakes bled. Smells like home. I backed toward the restrooms. The girl's head snapped toward me. Stay. Watch. Her voice wasn't hers anymore. Deeper. Hungrier. The stain in booth 7 bubbled. Rose. Took shape. A girl. My age. Apron stained with syrup. Or blood. She pointed at me. Mouth sewn shut with black thread. Rule 8. I ran into the restroom, locked the door, pressed my back to it, gasping. The mirror fogged. Words appeared in the condensation. Rule 8. If you see her, offer her coffee. She'll follow you home. She stood behind me, the ghost, the last waitress. Her eyes were empty sockets. She reached out, fingers brushing my neck. Help me! I shoved past her, burst into the diner. The couple was gone. Booth 7's seat was split open, foam spilling like guts. Lou stood at the counter, clutching a shotgun. Shoulda told you Rule 8. He spat blood into a napkin. She's your problem now. I grabbed Lou's arm. Who is she? He laughed, breath reeking of decay. The one before you. The one who asked too many questions. I locked the door. The ghost pressed against it, whispering. Jessica, let me in. Outside, the cornfields parted. The thing from night 1 stood there, 10 feet tall, limbs like knotted rope. Lou racked the shotgun. Rule 4 is over. They're all coming in. I did the only thing I could. I rang the bell. Ding ding. The mass lunged at the creature. They tangled, screeching. Lou grabbed my arm. Back door! Now! We ran, through the kitchen, past the meat locker. Don't look, and out the back. The headlights were waiting, dozens, blinking, alive. Lou shoved me into his truck. Drive, don't stop till dawn. What about you? I drove. In the rear view, the headlights followed, and in the passenger seat, the ghost, smiling. I drove until the gas light blinked, until the headlights in my mirror faded, but the ghost didn't. She sat there, humming that twisted lullaby, her hollow eyes fixed on me. Rule 8. She whispered, offer me coffee. I pulled into a rest stop. Dawn bled pink over the highway. The ghost followed me to the vending machines, her feet not quite touching the ground. Why me? I asked. She smiled, stitches snapping on her lips. You looked. I bought the strongest coffee they had, poured it into a styrofoam cup, handed it to her. She took a sip, black liquid dribbling down her chin. Lou's dead, she said. The diner's yours now. I laughed, bitter, broken. I'm not going back. The ghost leaned close, her breath reeking of burnt sugar. You don't have a choice. They've tasted you. When I turned, the headlights were back, parked in a perfect circle around my truck. No engines, no drivers, just waiting. I ran, left the truck, left the ghost, hitched a ride with a trucker who smelled like diesel and regret. He dropped me at my trailer, but home wasn't safe anymore. Mom's hospital bed sat in the living room. Machines beeped, tubes coiled. She'd been asleep for months. Coma, the doctor said. But now, her eyes were open. You brought it home. I collapsed by her bed. What do I do? Mom's hand twitched. She pointed to the window. The cornfields behind our trailer swayed. Something moved in them. Tall, hungry. Feed it. I rummaged through the kitchen, found Mom's old percolator. Brewed coffee. Strong, black. poured it into a thermos. The ghost watched, head tilted. "Rule 8. She said. "But you need Rule 9. I stepped onto the porch, held out the thermos. The cornstalks parted. The creature emerged, 10 feet tall, skin like oil-slick bark. It sniffed the coffee, took the thermos, drank. It dropped the thermos, leaned down, eyeless, mouthless, but I felt it speak. Diner opens at midnight. The ghost stood beside me. Rule 9, feed the crow. It buys you time. She faded, leaving a napkin in my hand. Rule 9, the crow eats at dawn. The crow eats at dusk. Miss a meal, and it eats you. I spent the day brewing coffee, filling thermoses, watching the clock. Mom's eyes never closed. At dusk, the crow returned, perched on the porch, 12 feet tall, glowing. I fed it. It left. At dawn again. Each time, it lingered longer, stared harder. By the third day, I ran out of coffee. The crow didn't knock. It tore the door off. I threw myself between them. Take me instead! The crow froze, tilted its head, and laughed. You belong to the diner, always. I woke in the diner's parking lot. The building stood intact, neon buzzing. No claw marks, no blood, just normal. An air taped to the door, a fresh apron. Inside, the rules had changed. Rule 1, you are the coffee now. Rule 2, booth 7 is your home. Rule 3, the special pancake is you. The bell chimed. Customers poured in. Truckers, the prom couple, the old woman, the kid. They filled the booths, stared, smiled. We've been waiting, Jessica. Lou stood behind the counter, or what was left of him, rotting, grinning. Told you you'd regret it. I backed toward the exit. The crow blocked it. Rule 9. It hissed. You missed a meal. I ran to the kitchen, grabbed a steak knife. The crow lunged. I slashed. Black feathers rained down. It screeched, a sound that split the world, and then silence. The diner was empty, just me, the knife, and a new rule, scrawled in grease on the wall. Rule 10. The crow always eats. Outside, the headlights brightened. The crow stood among them, wounded but alive. It pointed a talon at me. Tomorrow. It rasped. You'll taste better. The crow didn't wait for tomorrow. It came at 2 sharp, perched on the diner's roof, talons piercing the neon sign. Jessica. It hissed, its voice a chorus of the dead. You owe me a meal. I barred the door with chairs, spatulas, desperation. The rules on the wall pulsed like open wounds. Rule 10. The crow always eats. Rule 11. If you survive the night, you become the chef. Rule 12. The chef can never leave. The ghost waitress materialized by the coffee machine. Her stitches now black veins. You're running out of time, she whispered. Rule 13's in the basement. There's no Rule 13. I snapped. She grinned, syrup blood dripping down her chin. There is now, the basement. Of course, every cursed place has one. I grabbed a flashlight, descended the rotted stairs. The walls were lined with Polaroids. Previous waitresses, chefs, Lou, all smiling, all dead. At the bottom, a single page hung from a meat hook. Rule 13. Feed the crow your name, and it will leave you alone. Rule 14. Names have flavor. Yours will sour. The ghost appeared beside me, her breath freezing the air. Lou used Rule 13. Traded Lewis for 20 years. Tastes like ash now. What happens if I do it? You forget, but the diner remembers. I climbed back up, Rule 13 clutched in my fist. The crow had torn through the roof, its head inside the diner, eyes burning like dying stars. The customers watched from their booths, licking their lips. Feed it, Jessica. Feed it your sweet name. Asterisk. I grabbed a knife, sliced my palm, wrote my name in blood on the grill. Take it, I hissed. Jessica. Jess. SSSS. It worked. The crow recoiled, screeching. Sour! Sour! It fled, wings thrashing. The customers moaned in disappointment. Now you're no one. Now you're ours. Asterisk. I felt it. The hole where my name had been. A numb void. But I was alive. The ghost handed me Lou's shotgun. Rule 11. You're the chef now. Feed them. I cooked. Pancakes oozing with my blood coffee. Fries glazed in crow's bile. The customers ate, but their eyes stayed locked on me. More! They chanted. More. At 4 the bell chimed. A new customer. He looked familiar. white hair, thick glasses, a name tag, Dr. Hayes County Hospice. Mom's doctor, Jessica? Your mother's awake. She's asking for you. The doctor stepped closer. She's scared, Jessica. Come home. You're not real, I whispered. Aren't I? He smiled. Mom's voice spilled from his mouth. Don't leave me here, baby. I pulled the trigger. Rule 14. Names have flavor. His was liar. Asterisk. I dropped the shotgun. My hands were stained greasy. Chef's hands. The ghost pressed the menu into them. Rule 15. The chef chooses the next ingredient. The customers leaned forward. The kid licked his metal teeth. Whose dinner, chef? I pointed at the ghost. Clever girl. The crow lunged, devouring her essence. The diner shook, walls cracking. For a moment, I thought it might collapse. I stood alone, the grill cold, the blood coffee congealing. Rule 15 glowed on the menu. Rule 15. The chef chooses. For now, the ghost was gone, devoured, but her absence left the diner hungry. The walls sagged, the neon sputtered, even the coffee tasted hollow. I stood behind the counter, chef's knife in hand, staring at Rule 15. Rule 15. The chef chooses. For now, the crow wasn't finished. It circled the diner, wings blotting out the moon. You stole my meal. It hissed. Now I'll take yours. The customers returned, not just the kid or the prom couple. New ones. A businessman with a briefcase leaking fog. A hitchhiker with glowing eyes. They filled the booths, silent, staring, waiting for my special. What's on the menu, chef? I sliced my palm again, let my blood drip into the batter. Rule 11. The chef feeds them. But this time, I added something else. Ashes from the ghost's Polaroid. The pancakes bubbled, forming faces. The ghosts. Lose. Moms. I served them anyway. Bitter. He spat. But familiar. Power surged through me. The diner's whispers sharpened. I could feel the rules shifting, new ones etching themselves into the walls. Rule 16. The chef's blood binds them. Rule 17. But the chef's blood attracts it. The crow's talon smashed through the window. You think you control this place? You're just the latest ingredient. Chef's special's getting spicy. I gripped the knife. What's it? Rule 17. What's coming? The first chef, the one who built this place. He hates new recipes. The diner shook. Clock hands spun backward. Booth 7 split open, vomiting thick black roots. From the depths rose him, the first chef. You spoiled my diner. I backed into the kitchen. The first chef lurched forward, roots snaking from his ribs. Mine! He rasped. All mine! I grabbed the shotgun, fired. The blast tore through his jaw. He didn't flinch. I cannot die here. The diner drank my blood, and I felt it. The first chef's rage, his loneliness, his curse. 1932. The walls whispered. A man starving. A deal with the crow. A diner built on graves. Recipes of the dead. The vision faded. The first chef loomed, roots pinning me. Join us. I slashed the roots, stumbled to the basement. Rule 18 glowed in the dark. Rule 18. The first chef's true name will set you free. Rule 19. But names have prices. I rifled through the Polaroids, found the oldest one, a man in a 1930s apron. Walter Grimes. The back read, Walter Grimes. I screamed, No! 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 I ran, out the back, into the cornfields. The diner imploded behind me, sucking Walter and the crow into its void. Dawn broke. The fields were silent, but in my pocket, a Polaroid. Me, standing in the ruins. Rule 19 etched beneath. Rule 19. Names have prices. Yours is due. I'm nobody. No name. No past. But the diner? It's still here. In my head. In my blood. And the crow. You owe me. Chef. Asterisk. The crow's shadow swallowed the sunrise. It perched on a telephone pole, head cocked, watching me. No name. No diner. No rules, it croaked. But you're still mine. I clutched the Polaroid of the ruined diner. Rule 19 burned in my palm. Your price is due. But I had nothing left to pay. No name. No ghost. Just the ache where Mom's voice used to live. The crow spread its wings. Last chance, chef. Rebuild the diner. Feed me. Or It didn't finish, didn't need to. The headlights pulsed, hungry. It was growing, in my head. Red vinyl booths, blood coffee brewing, booth 7 stains spreading like a tumor. Rule 16. The chef's blood binds them. My blood, my curse. I closed my eyes. Let the diner consume me. Let the walls rise. Let the rules carve themselves into my bones. I stood behind the counter, apron stained, knife in hand. The crow perched on booth 7, talons sunk into the vinyl. Welcome home. It hissed. Special! 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 I gripped the knife, cut my arm, let my blood fill the coffee pot. Rule 16. The chef's blood binds them. But I added something new. Ashes from the Polaroid. Mom's face in the flames. Let go, baby. I poured the blood coffee into mugs, set them on the counter. New rule. I said, everyone eats. They drank, and screamed. Mom's ashes in the coffee. Her voice, her love, her final breath. It was poison to them. Bitter! Too bitter! I grabbed the crow's throat. You want my name? Take it. Nothing. Take my diner? It's yours. No rules. Without you. I woke in a hospital bed, tubes in my arms, machines beeping. Mom sat beside me, frail but alive. You're safe. She whispered, it's over. For a moment I believed her, then I saw it, on the windowsill, a napkin, folded into a crow. Rule 20. The diner never closes. I smiled, pulled the 4 from my arm. Somewhere, a doorbell chimed.